leadership. And an interesting journey is going to be the two main things we're going to be talking about in this chapter of the Business Library. I have Nico on here. He started as a forklift driver. Nowadays, he works as a nuclear reactor. We're not going to go too much into that for legal reasons. I don't want to get arrested. He doesn't either. And just how to actually be a good leader, build a good team is some of the subjects we're going to cover. But to start us off with, like, how did your journey start? Like, from starting as a forklift driver all the way up until now? Like, the brief version, at least.
The brief version. Yeah, the long version would take us a couple of hours, I think.
Imagine so.
Thanks for having me, Matt. It's wonderful. Where did I start? I was a country kid, and my parents, they were, my dad worked in a bank, my wife was a cleaning lady, and they were kind of the mental principle of learn a trade and you will get, anywhere in life. Together with that, be friendly to everybody you meet and smile as much as you can and enjoy life. That's kind of the principles they lived around. So in high school, a 12-year-old, 13-year-old, 14-year-old has not got any clue what you're going to do with the rest of your life. So my dad said, what do you like most as a trade? And I said, well, electricity. It's something that I vibe with. And no pun intended. So it actually came down to becoming an electrician at the end of my high school years. I didn't go and do any further studies or anything like that. But of course, what do you do when you're 18 or 19-year-old? You just jump on your bike and you start driving into the industrial areas asking for, a job. You didn't need anybody for a job. And that's where I got into my very first job, absolutely, driving a forklift. And I did not enjoy it, I must admit it. Didn't take long because I actually had an accident at the time. So that's how the story starts.
It started with an accident.
Let's start with an accident, yeah.
I would have imagined you were one of those guys in the forklifts that look cool as hell. Just messing about the pallets looking like...
I might now, after 25 years, maybe it might have improved, and the beard does it as well. But that kid, it was mega nerd, it was a mega nerd. I was black, I wore black clothes all the time. I was like into gothic metal and all that chisel. And it's really weird. If you see me now, it's a completely different story. I listen to classic music. Piano is my favorite, violin. I love Lindsay Sterling, for instance. Anybody look her up, it's just an amazing lady. We went to her concert really recently. Stuff like that is what I do now. So looking at that forklift driver towards what I'm doing right now, let's say there's a very big difference.
I would say so. Just the orange background.
Yes.
that wouldn't have happened in the back.
It's patented by the glow that I give off from the nuclear reactor.
There's certain advantages to working at a place like that. Like, how do you even end up in a position like that? I don't imagine you pull up to the nuclear reactor saying, "Hey, do you have a job for me?"
No, somebody else actually gave me the job. Basically, that came down to it. No, it's just, making the right connections and people meeting each other, flow, universe, all that vibe that goes around. It's really funny because before I did this job, I do several different jobs. I told you in the past already. It's just, but this job I was in a chemical plant, right? Doing some stuff for, training and planning trainings and doing invoicing on that level. And I had no team at the time, and then somebody who saw me do the job, because I have never been able to restrict myself to the cubicle that was assigned to me, to put it that way. And I kind of jumped around, and since I've been in IT for 15 years as well, I knew a lot about software. So they were implementing software, and this lady who was working on the project didn't have the look and feel of software and how to work with developers and stuff like that in a project. So I just jumped in and just did whatever I thought was good. And we started working together. And she said, wow, what you know is just amazing. You can do so many different things. So at some point, we were kind of at the end of the project, and she was telling me, you're going to have to find something new, a new freelance position, because this is ending. I'm like, okay, I've always had the flow going on. I always have something behind the door, number two. And she met somebody that evening, and she told her, the other person told her, I'm looking for somebody with those specs and this and that. And she said, call Nick. Maybe, he can help. And like 2 weeks later, I was signing up a contract with nuclear power plant as a competence and training manager. It's freaky. It's really freaky how it went. In a couple of weeks' time. Yeah.
I don't imagine most forklift drivers end up working in nuclear power plants.
I don't think so.
There
are a couple of guys driving around there, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, maybe if everything goes shit, you're gonna go out and join them out back.
Yeah. I'll always have a job. There's no problem there.
You talked about nowadays you have a team, and one of the things I see a bunch of, especially for example on LinkedIn, is that graph of the manager versus the leader, or the boss versus the leader. They use one of those two different words. Mm-hmm. What's the difference between those two in your eyes?
That's a wonderful question. I always look at this like a horse's carriage. I look at a company like a horse's carriage, and when you have a manager, usually the classic word of a manager is somebody sitting on the carriage, and there I can always imagine like being a desk on the carriage and directing people to drive where they need to go, and telling the front horses where they need to go from the distance, and then you have a leader who, you can kind of have two kinds of leaders to keep up the terminology, but there's one guy who might, or person or lady or whatever, might be in front of the horses, guiding them towards a strategy. This is the way we have to go. But usually these are the kind of people who are also doing the job. They're pulling their people with them. They're not actually giving the people the opportunity to go their way. And that's where I come down to the leader that I love to be. And that is the person who is in between the horses, in between all the people. And I am not specifically doing the job. I am not doing the operational part, but I am actually guiding them while I'm in between them and asking them, so what do you think? You're the expert. What is going on? What do you think we need to do? And this and that. While sometimes I just, jump out of the horses and just, are we going in the right direction? Jumping back and then going back forward. That's what I find is a very good leader, is somebody who knows how to activate other people's talents and let them be who they are and let them make mistakes. One of the most important things in leadership is letting go of your people because they know what they're doing. We're not in kindergarten anymore, guys. It's just, everybody is a professional. And I can tell you, after 25 years sitting in between all these people, they know a lot more and a lot better what they need to do than most of us think they do. It's just amazing. That's what I look like when I look at a true leader. That's what I would describe.
I completely agree with that definition. I like the horses example and going down between the carriages. That's a new one. I think it illustrates it very well. Because sometimes I ask myself the question when I see people manage, like, why do you even hire people? You want to do everything anyway. just do it. It's way cheaper. If you just do it yourself, you're going to save a bunch of money.
Oh, that's not. That's not cheaper. It's worse. It may cost you a lot more money, honestly. Yeah.
Well, then they'll learn to appreciate their people, I imagine.
Yeah. That's the other side of the coin there.
Yeah, there's. I've definitely been in a position before where, well, some team members not necessarily perform the best, but you haven't really been able to just go out and fire them because you're like, the rest of us just gonna do his job as well. He was doing something.
Yeah.
So let's keep him on the team until we find, or like the seasons change. Back when I managed, it was very young people. So there's like just around when school breaks, like summer ends and starts, it's kind of where you have a bunch of turnaround. Yeah. That season, you can easily find something. But in the middle of winter, it's a bit more difficult. And you talked about letting your team go out making mistakes,
Yes.
which kind of hints at what I wanted, at least the answer to what I wanted to ask, which is what is your response when somebody fucks up, goes up, makes a mistake?
Well, first of all, own it. That's the first response that I want to see somebody do. You know, if you are in a team and if your manager is from that point of view a true leader and saying, you know, make mistakes, I will support you. I have about 15 people right now in my team. In one of the jobs, I have another 5 people, another thing that I do, and one of my basic rules is make mistakes but own them. And that's really simple, because if you make a mistake, you can either fix it or find a way around it or anything like that, but you're never alone. By making a mistake, you don't have to think, oh no, I have to fix this. No, there's people around you. And if you create that safe space of, you know, make mistakes, make calculated mistakes, you know, don't mess everything up, because that's not going to work. You said you'll probably be, you know, exiting the company a lot quicker than if you do that. But in basic sense, if you are a professional, you will make calculated mistakes. And then you have teammates around you who can actually help you solve the issue. And leadership should be there to serve you. You know, a couple of weeks back, I'm going to take that example. There was a software company I went to, as you know, it was this networking thing, and they presented themselves and they showed me their org chart. And mostly you see this pyramid, you know, coming down, you know, CEO, CFO, COO, or whatever, all of them, and going down to the point. They had turned that around. They said all our resources, our, you know, production environment are not at the bottom. No, they're the top. Those are the guys that we listen to. We got the money, we got the opportunities, we got the customers that we're bringing in, and so on and so on. But they are, you know, finalizing, creating the software or the services. So we should be there to service them. And that's how I look at my leadership as well within my team. It's like, okay, if something happens in my team, somebody makes a mistake, I make that mistake. I am their leader. I am supposed to be the one who would be, you know, communicating with the business and saying, okay, my team made a mistake and I will own this and we will fix this. That's how I look at making mistakes. And there's only one way to grow, and that's in any side of life. If it's leadership or personal or whatever, you have to fail forward. I've lost count, actually. I've had so many failed ventures. I've done so many failed things. I'm not mentioning them a lot, but I just did them. And ideas, I had a couple of years back, I had a workshop system where, you know, 3 months people would join me in calls online. I would present them with all kinds of tools and stuff like that. And it didn't bring in any money. It just, you know, serviced people, and that was it. So that's not a good business model. You know, you kind of have to eat sometimes. So
Yeah,
it's a failed venture. Period. It's a failed venture. You know, I might have brought a lot of good stuff towards people, but it's a failed venture. It's not bringing up economic growth for myself or for my company. Now, these days, I'm running a new venture. I'm actually, you know, I'm doing this confidant thing where I listen to business leaders, helping them, you know, improve themselves. And it's a challenge because I'm actually, you know, I'm fiddling in their wounds. You know, people don't like that. You know, they like to cover things up and, you know, not take care of it. You know?
That's
So
way easier that way.
It is. Life is much easier when you put everything in a black box and never look at it. But life is a lot more beautiful when you open up that box and give it some light as well. So yeah, that's kind of how I look at failure. Sorry, making mistakes.
Same thing, different word. I think everybody understood what you mean. And I like the example flipping the organizational chart upside down, because I believe as well the CEO is there to serve the C level is just under him or above him, however way we turn it.
Mm-hmm.
And then it goes like that because those are actually the people that directly brings the money in.
Yeah.
The CEO often doesn't directly bring in a lot of money. He doesn't execute that. It's not his job.
Future vision, that stuff. Yeah. But I must, you know, pick up on that little thing where you're just saying, C levels, they're at the bottom and they grow up. The C level can only operate as good as the information that they get or the support that they get from the environment. That's also one it's one of the things that I've been bringing out into the world. It's called CEO disease and founder syndrome. And that's basics. If the info is not okay, there is a disease present in the environment. So we'll talk about that later. But yeah.
I love that you bring that up, because I actually had a question in mind that was, how many or how big of a percentage of mistakes do you think happen because lack of information?
Oh, that's a big number. That's just a big number, because
I
communication.
was thinking like 70, 80.
Yeah,
something like that.
It's really big. Yeah, absolutely. Bad communication, bad information, teams that are not in sync, companies that, well, let's give an example where if you have a company that has different departments and they're all working in their own silo, forget about being productive. Forget about, growing in a natural way. Big companies, they survive because they have so much cash flow and they have so much business going on. But at some point, they're going to fail because those silos keep them separated, and it's not going to work. You need to cross those boundaries, cross the communication, and be open to each other. That's a challenge for a lot of companies.
Yeah. Just by the amount of memes that I see around on social media from different industries of teams not speaking together, you know what they mean. They all say the same thing, lack of communication at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's a basic error. It's a basic thing, yeah.
And I think one thing to put the point home of how important it is, the CEO actually takes the time to listen.
Mm-hmm.
I used to work at, I think it's actually the private company in Denmark that employs the most people, don't have the highest revenue. A big retailer, so all kinds of things. And we had the CEO of the whole company, the whole corporation, the big one. Mm-hmm. Not just the company we specifically worked in. I come in, bring in like 1.5 hour presentation, just sitting there having a conversation with us. And then we also hear stories about, like, that's normal for him just to go around cafeterias and just like speak to people. Like, that's nice. In trainee positions. They had him at the main office. Apparently they brought in some Indians to help with something. And he went over to them and just sat with them. And they were like, they nearly packed up and just walked away, because to them that was so unnatural. Like, the top guy goes over to sit with the service crew that doesn't even work for him. Like, what? There's something wrong. This can't be good.
Yeah.
But subconsciously, I believe that made me listen more to my employees, because if he has time to listen to me, and level-wise, there's like, I think 2 levels of C levels, and then there's within those specific companies before I get there. If he has time to that, and even the people that was below I was at, then why don't I? But that started from the top and split down, which you could feel through the entire organization.
Well, it's making choices in your priorities, because it's basically what you said earlier. C levels, and I'm not only talking about a CEO and founders. Both of them are in service of their company and their employees. That's as simple as that. And if you listen to what's going on, the buzz in the hallways, the buzz at the water cooler or the coffee machine or whatever it might be, and you go into the offices and feel the vibe of the people there and talk to them, you will know what's going on in your company. There are so many leaders who are covered with a veil of Excel sheet management. It's one of the reasons I left IBM. It's because they were showing yellow and green while everything was red. The people were running around all over the place trying to survive in this, you kill what you get environment, knives in the back, everything that you can imagine that is really, the classic 80s corporate America image that you would get. I think the movie 9 to 5, with Dolly Parton and so on, kind of gives that a funny but a very, very good view of how it is sometimes. And if you take the time to talk to the person on the floor, as we sometimes say, you'll probably do a lot more strategic thinking in the right direction with the whole of the company, with all the information that's there, than sitting in your ivory tower and deciding that a product needs to be yellow while the market is shouting it needs to be pink. That doesn't work. That doesn't.
Another thing regarding communication: every link you add on, something gets missed on and reworded and misinterpreted until it gets to the top. It's nearly not the same message anymore.
No, true.
It's completely different. Like, one of the big things I found really helped to motivate people, the people I had under me worked with, was acknowledgement. Like, we have a word over here in Denmark called acknowledgement leadership. It doesn't translate that well. There might be a specific English word for it. I don't know it. But basically, like, I trained my brain to go in and look for the good things within people. I had quite a big team working with about 30 people, and at any given time with about 10. That was their minimum. So it wasn't that hard to find something every day. And all of a sudden, once I started looking for it, I found all of these great things people did. And it really just helped excel people like onward. Even kind of became a bit of a problem when some of the other management came in. Like, they couldn't create the same result because they wanted to work harder, because, like, oh, this guy likes me. He actually gives me something if I go in and give him some effort. He appreciates it. I would love to hear if you have some experience using that specific thing in your leadership.
Yeah, well, I call it compounding, because
good word for it, actually.
It's because the little things that you notice in your team, the little actions are actually what builds a big mountain of high impacting actions. I don't know if you saw the movie, what's it called again? It's about a prison where this guy is moving rocks from one side to another, and they just start building a wall. And it's just, he gets punished and he needs to destroy the wall and starts, moving into the other side again. But the point is that every stone that he moved made a bigger pile and was the starting point of a bigger wall. And if you have a daily habit of gratitude, for instance, you get up in the morning and you just say 3 things that you're happy for, you're just grateful for. It could be, I'm getting out of my bed. I don't have any pain. And at my age, I can assure you that kind of is a thing.
Yeah, I've heard so.
And I'm grateful for my family. So it's these 3 things. If you compound those things, it's gratitude compounds as well. It's an emotion, it compounds as well. You feel better and you'll be acting differently as well. It also comes from within. It's the same thing with actions from your team. And if you notice all these little actions, say, for instance, somebody has the habit of getting birthday cards for the team members. They keep the dates and they send them flowers or, just a birthday card, walks around the office. And it motivates the team. These are small things that motivate a team to stay together, because one thing that you need to know is people do not leave a company only for financial reasons. Most of the time, and this is statistically about 70% of the time, it is because of their leadership and their team members. And mostly the leader, that's the highest priority. If the team really is a team and everybody is supporting each other, they will even survive the worst manager. And it's all these little compounding things where you just say, oh, you've done this today. There's a mailbox, a general mailbox. Everybody, that one person manages it really greatly, distributes work for everybody, and adds a little word, good luck with this, or thank you for this, whatever. These small things compound into a team that really is one whole. It becomes one instead of separate entities, and it's those compounding effects And it's the same thing with, if you look at compounding and you put interest after it, you might make a lot of money. But it's the same thing with the human thing. And I love an image that compounding really brings to life. That's, your domino stone, the domino stones. Probably saw the episodes in Holland where they created these fields full of dominoes and then created a nice little view. But the effect of a domino is if you put a domino and you resize the next one X amount of percentage, and it's not that much, but you resize the next one, move on and move on. If you come to I think it's the 37th or the 40th domino, you have the height of the Liberty Statue of Liberty. If you move on, you come to even, it's not that much, but if you come on and you go forward, the height of the Mount Everest. And even further, I think it's at tile 50 or 60, you have the distance between the Earth and the Moon. Now, the fact is, if you push the first one, the kinetic energy that topples it and moves the next one and moves the next one, it will topple the biggest one that you can create. And that's what compounding means. It's all these little differences, little things that create a growing effect. So yeah, I call it compounding team effect.
I think that's a better word for it, definitely in English, than the one I used. Much better, actually. And I think so many things in life is actually compounding, because you can't change everything in a day. It requires those incremental small actions and steps.
Small things.
I know this is not necessarily leadership, but sometimes it's hard to get yourself and keep your head down in that kind of journey, because you can't really see anything's going on. It feels like it's been in the same circle you was 3 weeks ago.
Oh yeah.
You kind of are.
Yes.
But you're moving closer to where you want to go. Like, how do you keep yourself focused?
It's one of the simplest things that everybody knows this. Really, everybody knows this. It's discipline. You just keep doing it every single day. It's as simple as that. You will not see results, but they are there and they will be coming. And I have my own podcast. It's been a while since I've started it, and at the beginning I was struggling. How am I going to get all these people on an interview and stuff like that? You know how it is. You just look on LinkedIn, you contact somebody. Oh, would you love to be on my podcast? And you start a conversation. It takes a couple of days. They don't answer. Blah blah blah. You just go from back and forth, and then after 2 weeks, it's like, oh, finally got my first interview.
Yeah,
I did my first interview, and then was like, oh, damn, I needed a second one. Why didn't I think of that 2 weeks ago? So then you start learning, hold on, if I talk to 5 people a day and just ask them, are you interested, or do you know anybody who's interested? You get a stockpile of contacts that just, they start piling up, and you start to find that it's even difficult to keep track of who you contacted and who you didn't. But that's okay. You can leave it at it as it is, and you just, circle back. If somebody's really interested, they'll ask you. Don't worry about it. It's the same way how I pick up my phone. If they really need me, they'll call me again. I don't have my phone on any sound system, so it's always off. People call me. If they keep calling me, it probably will, at some point, I will probably pick it up, but I usually call people back. They say, 3 or 4 times, then I will call them back straight away. It's an emergency. But I digress. The thing is, the discipline that I got from that is really thinking, okay, 5 people every day. After a while, it's like, 5 this is a lot. It takes your time. You're finding the good text, looking at the profile, blah blah blah. And then I said, hold on, no. 1 a day, 1 person every day, every weekday, every weekend day. I will just contact 1 person. Started doing the same on Podmatch. So I found a lot of people to talk to, and I have now, I think I'm booked till the end of January with interviews, which is like, it just comes in, and I do about 2 interviews a week, give or take. I got a lot of episodes still planned, still in my queue to be edited and launched. And that's where it comes down to discipline. Just one person a day. And it comes back to the compounding as well. So one person a day, you have a contact. You ask them one question saying, are you interested or do you know anybody? Or sometimes, might stretch it and say, do you know 3 people in your network who might be interested? And they, give you a couple of names, you jump on that, you do blah, 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 blah. And it's how it flows. It's the discipline of taking action each and every day that brings you closer to your targets. And it's not the big things. That's one thing I have learned. It's not taking one big action. I used to publicize this thing where a week on end, I would send out posts on all social medias, do live videos and everything together in 1 week time to get one workshop full. I had, the time that I spent on publicizing this workshop that only took about 3 hours there was no balance. If I would have talked to every person, months on end, I would have filled up that workshop without any problem. It's just, discipline. Every day, one little thing, and you'll get there.
Yeah, I think that's a good one. Just know a lot of people listening to this podcast have their own business or starting their own business in the process of it. Just start to reach out to one new person a day, saying, hey, do you need this, or do you know somebody that needs this?
Yeah.
If you don't know them, preferably a little bit less direct. At least if you're contacting me, I wouldn't very much appreciate that
Don't
specific.
Don't do what LinkedIn's become these days. It's like, throw something in somebody's inbox. Oh, I know you have this, blah, 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 blah. How many times I've seen stuff come in for, podcast promoters. It's just delete. I don't even read them anymore. It's just say hi first, hello. How are you?
A good tip if you are wanting to connect to a bunch of new people, go and drop a bunch of comments on LinkedIn and connect with everybody that likes your comments. Then they'll most likely accept them. You can actually have something to talk about because you can talk about the post above the person that made the post. Then you can kind of have a conversation.
Yeah, there's always a subject somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And it's only our imagination that's the limit. And that kind of, not naturally, but leads a little bit into our next question, which is, do you have like other successful leadership techniques, like compounding leadership that you've used to great success?
Yeah, I got one sentence that I use a lot. You got one mouth and 2 ears. Use them correctly.
True.
Listen. Just listen. And be silent. You have to shut up a hell of a lot more than you should talk as a leader. It's kind of what we said earlier. Listen to your people. Listen to them.
Yeah.
They know what they're saying.
And they have an idea of what's going on. And combined, they do have more eyes and ears than you, so they are listening and seeing more than you are.
Yes, absolutely. Another one would be show up. Just show up. Be there. Show them. Be the example. Just, do the stuff. You're not supposed to be the operational person. No, that's true. That's not the ideal way. I find leadership is a job. It is a separate job. It is not something that you add to. No, it is a solo thing that you do. It's a simple. Bam. Leadership is a job. So many companies promote subject matter experts into a leadership role. Don't do that. It's a bad idea. Don't get somebody from your team and put them in a higher position. Give them a pay raise because they're experts. I have this discussion right now where the company is built on promoting people because they know stuff and they become managers, become team. What happens is they get pulled out of the team, which makes a hole. And why do people do this? Because it's the only way up. It's the only way they get a pay raise. You should actually work with knowledge centers, experts. These guys they know what they're doing, and they can work together, and they can. One of the big issues is if you have an expert in your team, is that they're the expert, the only one. Now, to spread the expertise so you have a backup is create a knowledge center. Have all different kind of experts sit together in a knowledge center or a knowledge division or whatever, and they're still part of the team, but they're more senior, and they get their pay raises that way. If you have a team that needs to be managed, get somebody either from a completely different department to do that leadership role, or get somebody somewhere else extra. Because it's so important that people look up to their leader for guidance and assurance and so on. They will not do that, or they will do that less when somebody from the team jumps into that position. Because they always see, I had drinks with that guy. He was dancing on the table. He was pissed. So I know his secrets. Doesn't work in a team.
It is definitely so. You want to be careful about what you do in the management position when you're out getting drinks with people.
Personal experience.
Yeah, I've done it as well. And I do think you can do it in the right and the wrong way, because it can definitely also help build the team. And I believe like getting to know your team members personally is a big part of being successful.
Yeah, but I would advise stay sober. That's the better
way. Yep.
Go out, have beers, no problem, but stay sober.
Yeah, like that's the first time you probably ever heard a Danish person agree to staying sober is a good idea. Generally not a thing we do. Generally, like
okay.
Our Danes like their drink. We're kind of known for that to some extent, at least. I think it's not as bad as it used to be.
Okay.
People used to drink
a lot more leaders now. Maybe not.
Nah, I think it's a whole.
Let's leave that in the middle. Next question.
There's definitely. I've met plenty of people that shouldn't have been leadership positions, and then probably also met plenty of people the other way around. And you do have a problem in like promoting internally, because I often also find it's hard to be the one being promoted internally, because you all of a sudden have a different relationship to all of these people. Like you used to be buddy with them, so you're still good friends. And then going in and asking a person not to give preferential treatment to his friends is a hard ask. You should do it, but it's a hard ask still.
Yes.
It feels very unnatural. Just like, I don't like him. Maybe you can just do that.
Give him the easy job.
Yeah.
I didn't like that one. Just give him the shit jobs.
Yeah, like for me, fairness is a big part. It's something I value extreme. Like, and if I feel the manager is not fair, like that pisses me off. So when I did management leadership, one of the most important things was that people felt they were treated fairly, which sometimes was a hard balance. So I guess it's a closing out question. How do you achieve that balance in a team so that we feel valued and feel like they're fairly treated?
Well, I think you kind of hit it on the nail. That's a difficult thing to do, because you really need to know your team, and you need to know them individually, and then you can actually act on giving them the necessary gratitude or the necessary recognition, so that you actually get to that point where they feel valued. Sometimes it's like, it's kind of choosing between two kids when when they have children, and you always have a favorite. Don't bullshit me. Everybody has a favorite, and everybody has this annoying.
Say that before.
I mean, come on, no, don't lie here. I'm for radical truth, so everybody has their favorite, and it might be really close to each other. Honestly, I have my two kids. One of them is indeed. I have a lot more connection with him. I have a lot more stuff that I can, relate to. With the other kids, it's completely different. He's more like me. He's annoying. So for me, he's annoying as well.
You're too much alike.
Love them both, absolutely. But it's the same thing with a team. There's at some point you're kind of taking care of an environment of a lot of different characters, a lot of different even ideas and viewpoints of life, and so on. So finding the way to giving them the necessary appreciation, it's difficult. Last year, no, it was 2 years ago. 2 years ago, I brought everybody a bottle of red wine. That was my end of year present to everybody, bottle of red wine, which was, to me, it was a good wine. It wasn't something special. I went to the shop and got wine. I gave everybody a bottle. But a couple of them didn't like wine. They never drank wine. So they were annoyed. And I was like, this is a present. Just be happy with it. No, they were vocal about it. They were really clear about it. And I said, okay, no problem. What do you want? Oh, I don't know. So the bottle is okay? Yeah. But they needed to be vocal about it. I said, okay, appreciate your honesty. It's okay. Keep the bottle, give it to a friend, give it to somebody in your family. I don't care. But I wanted to give you something as appreciation for what you do here every day. And they were happy. First off, they were annoyed that it was a bottle of red wine. They didn't like it. You talk to them, you give them appreciation, and suddenly the bottle of red wine is good. So it's something that's so unfathomable. What is appreciation? It is dependent on the individual, perspective, lifestyle, everything related to a human being.
A very good example. And I would appreciate the bottle of red wine. I'll tell you one thing, though. My mom is going to appreciate it a lot more than I have.
Okay.
So I'm going to appreciate
we won't tell her.
No, thank you for the gift. I can give to my... In that way, I'm going to appreciate it. Because
okay.
I ain't going to get the enjoyment of it. When I first start drinking wine, I can't stop. I get an awful headache the day after. So I learned to just...
You're not drinking the right wine. That's a simple. There's a difference. There's absolute difference. There's headache wine and there's no headache wine. There's a difference.
Once I come to Belgium again, you have to show me one non-headache wine. So I'd like to know, because I've had some bad ones.
I'll put some aspirins in the bottle.
Then you ain't gonna feel a thing the day after. That's gonna be
everything is a solution.
Maybe taste a bit weird though.
Depending on what kind of pills I use.
Yeah. Maybe it's the more expensive wine. Maybe it ruins it a bit.
Yeah. I won't do that. No.
Please buy one of the cheap ones if you're going to put aspirin into it. Please. That'd be bit of a waste. Buying a $1,000 bottle of wine, here's a cup left. It tastes like garbage.
Let's spice it up a little. Yeah.
Yeah, well, at least as long as you only spice it with that, I'm gonna be okay with it. I don't mind. Don't mind aspirin. Nico. I heard you called yourself Nick as well.
Yeah,
so I guess
Nick
you
is
go
fine.
by both.
Oh yes, that's fine.
I was just editing yesterday podcast with a guy called Nick, so apparently I switched the names around. I'm gonna have your podcast link below, of course. But besides that, what would be a good natural next step for the person listening to take if they really enjoyed our conversation? Which I imagine if they listen to all of it so far.
Well, I would say check out my LinkedIn profile and download the ebook on CEO disease and founder syndrome. I think you will find that that's an eye opener for a lot of people who are in leadership, that they noticed things that are happening around them that they did not expect that would be reality, because that's the message I'm putting out there. It's realize a lot more is going on than you see with your own eyes. And that's where it starts.
Yeah, I think there's a bunch to learn from it. I haven't read it, but after this conversation today, I can only imagine. So I'll make sure to have those links below. And thank you very much for taking the time to have a conversation with me today. I had an absolute blast myself.
Likewise. A lot of fun. Thank you very much for this time.